Good day, everyone. Welcome to Exploring Innovative Revenue Streams for Planetariums, Strategies for 2025 and Beyond, a special presentation of Dome Fest West's Fulldome Forums. First up, I'd like to introduce Kate McCallum. Kate is a creative producer for Worlds. She has been in the planetarium space for, over 15 years. Previously, she was in the studio system, Paramount and NBC Universal, doing film and television productions. And she's currently distributing shows for Worlds, which are evening, all ages entertainment programming. So, hey, Kate, why don't you come on screen?
Let me unmute. And
there you go.
Camera, here we go. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks, Ed. I am so happy to be here. As Ed mentioned, I came into the planetarium in Fulldome space back in 2006 after meeting Ed at a conference, and he was showing a presentation about these domes and his vision of how they could be brought into arts and entertainment as well. And we met, and he took me to a dome in Philadelphia and showed me the power of the format, and I was blown away. And I was working on Law and Order at the time, so I had moved to LA, and we ended up partnering in his company, and he invested in a dome theater. But I'll come back to that for a minute because I want to honor the planetariums. I know there's been so much buzz and attention given to Cosm and to Sphere, and that's fantastic, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the planetariums first came on the scene back in 1923, 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, in Germany, and Zeiss built the first one. And in Jena, there's also a wonderful dome, which Mickey Raymond runs the Jena Fulldome Festival with his wonderful team there annually. So this has been, a format that was dedicated to understanding more of our place in the universe. And then it's been evolving to include other types of content, which we're going to talk about today. But I just wanted to do some shout outs here because the International Planetarium Society is an organization that supports this format on the scientific level, as well as the emerging usages of the planetarium space. And they have an international conference every other year. So there's one coming up next year in Japan, for those of you interested. And it's a wonderful way to meet your other fellow passionate planetarians, as they call them. And they also publish a magazine. So if you're interested, noodle around on their site. They also have a planetarium finder where you can look at all the locations of planetariums around the world internationally. So that's also a wonderful resource. And then, Dome Fest West was founded 5 years ago with Ryan Moore kind of leading the parade, and we launched a version of it in the Vortex Dome, which Ed invested in for his company, and it's really exciting, this emerging format. And the reason what I'm trying to do with this particular talk is to give you like a basic overview for those of you that are new to the space, and just look at what's evolving and then how that relates to what's happening in the planetariums as well. So this was the birth of my experience in Fulldome when we had this 50-foot experimental R&D lab, we called it, on a studio lot in downtown LA. So you can see it here. It was on the roof of their commissary. And this is a working studio where they shot Mad Men and many, many, many TV shows and movies. So we were super fortunate to be there for 10 years. And while Ed's company was making cash flow doing installations for branded marketing, we were using the dome for R&D and bringing artists in and trying anything that was exciting that we could fund and support in exploring this format. So these were some of the for-profit marketing experiences that can be done in this space. So this was at Comic-Con for the TV show Constantine, and this was Meatwad to promote a Cartoon Network series, and then of course, brands like Xbox at the Super Bowl. And so you see how this format is continuing to evolve into the public space and awareness. And then Pacific Domes was the dome company that we purchased Star Dome from, and this is from their website. So they supply domes to music festivals and pop-up experiences. So people are starting to discover the magic of the immersive space. And these are 2 domes that are currently running music shows. This one's in Austin, the Concert Dome, and then we have the B Dome running in Berlin. And there's many more, but these are just 2 that I wanted to include to show you what the possibilities are in the format. And then, as we look at the linear kind of unfolding, SAT, which is the Society for Arts and Technology located in Montreal, has this beautiful space that they installed a dome in 1996. So they were one of the first brick and mortar theaters that was showcasing content outside of a planetarium theater. And then, of course, and Tammy will go into this more, but IMAX was one of the early pioneers in the space as well. In addition to their giant flat screens, they were also installing a dome version of the IMAX venue into various locations. So in 1973, they did the OmniMax Theater, and then now there are over 40 dome IMAX theaters worldwide. And then back in 2019, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but Comcast, which owns Universal, had this dome installed in their lobby, and Steven Spielberg was executive producer on a short film that runs in that dome, and it's a free to visitors experience. So that was on the landscape. And then, of course, now everybody is, if they're not aware of it, or if you're not aware of it, the Sphere opened in Las Vegas in 2023, which I think is so fascinating because that's 100 years after the first Jena planetarium was built. So I think it's so interesting. We're in like a spiral evolution of emerging format in the cinema space. And in addition to doing music concerts, this is an arena space and owned by Madison Square Gardens, which specializes in doing live music concerts. They also produced a short film with Darren Aronofsky that shows there. But then about a year and a half ago, they announced that they had optioned the rights to The Wizard of Oz from Warner Brothers, and now are in the midst of, preparing to open it, the show. And they worked with Google and Make another company to master Breaking the Frame. So they've taken the original Wizard of Oz and they're breaking the frame so that you can actually be in the world of Oz, which is super exciting. And with that software getting finessed and enhanced, we're still in the early days of AI, but, that's going to provide technology that will open up the floodgates for a lot of conversion projects, which is also part of this future unfolding of the format. So, can you imagine sitting in that giant theater in the world of Wizard of Oz and meeting the wizard on the giant screen? So it's going to be exciting. I have tickets to go see it along with some other friends this month. So we shall see how it translates. And then on the mainstream front, we also have Cosm, which is actually the company that owns Evans and Sutherland, which is one of the premier planetarium businesses in the industry. They've been around for a long time and provide technology and show content and a catalog for distribution of shows into the planetariums. But Cosm is now opening these theater venues around the country, and they are they opened in the June of 2024. So now you have Cosm and you have Sphere bringing attention to the format. And they are doing sports primarily. They're selling themselves as a live sports venue, which is pretty amazing. It's all LED, like the Sphere. And they recently also optioned the rights to a big movie franchise from Warner Brothers, once again, The Matrix, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And they basically, instead of breaking the frame, they show it as a rectilinear format in its traditional original format, but they enhance the background with elements from the movie. So you can see the setup here with the screen and the curved dome format. And then this is a frontal shot. And then more of this enhancement. So you could be in the city of New York and feel that. And then, this is a project that Ed's company, Vortex, worked on with a number of other partners, and visioning the future of where this dome format could go, where it's part of an entertainment complex. Not necessarily, of course, replacing traditional rectilinear screens and programming, but adding to it. And that's a basic kind of transmedia approach of taking a singular IP and then repurposing it in a variety of different platforms. So my personal experience has been when we were producing content in the Vortex Dome, the 10 years that we had it up, James Hood came in, who's a wonderful musician and composer who played with Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders and had his own hit album Mood Swings, and he wanted to create a dome show. So he worked with us, and we did one show called Ceremony, and then got that out on a limited exposure. And then he wanted to create another album, which he called Mesmerica, and do another dome show. And so we were playing it in our theater, where he performed live in front of the cinema experience. And we were like, how can we get this out to more places? Because we have the chicken and egg challenge of venue and content. And so Ed suggested that we reach out to the planetariums, and we did, and that began our adventure. And we can go back to that later in the conversation. And the result of that was a collaboration between Vortex and James' company and James's marketing partner, Poseidon. So the three of our companies joined together to create Worlds. And we focus primarily on promoting our shows into the planetarium space at this time. And that's it for me. So thank you for letting me share this. And thank you all for joining this forum.
That's great, Kate. Curious to get your opinion on the revenue generation potential for planetariums as we move into our Q&A. So next up, we have Jay Heck. Jay, goodness, he's been in the laser display industry for decades, I say, with Laser Fantasy, which was founded back in 1977. Jay joined in 92, and as a in the art department, he's now the creative director and co-owner of Laser Fantasy, and he's won over 70 international awards for excellence, and laser light shows are going strong. Hey, Jay, why don't you come on screen and give us a little intro to yourself and what you've been up to and your thoughts on revenue generation.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for putting this forum together to explore new ways for planetariums to generate revenue and engage audiences. My name is Jay Heck. I'm the co-owner and creative director of Laser Fantasy. We've been creating planetarium-style laser shows for nearly 50 years. Laser shows are a proven, adaptable, and creative option that can complement existing dome programming. And I'd like to start off by showing a short video clip to help illustrate what it is that we do.
Destroy them with lasers.
Yeah.
So, laser light shows attract demographics who might not normally attend astronomy or science programs. It's a good way to bring in people, new groups to science centers and domes. They add entertaining programming alongside your educational content. We also offer some educational laser shows, but primarily it's entertainment based. Makes your theater more versatile. And fans come together to experience their favorite artists combined with the immersive visuals that they really can't get anywhere else. And we encourage our venues to use all the effects in their domes to make shows feel more live, and encourage the audience to give feedback during shows and cheer for the parts that they like. It brings it a little closer to a concert than it is to a movie. And the more live the aspect of it, it inspires the audience to return more often. And for some venues that can actually support live music and have bands in a dome, you can enhance their performance with laser effects as well as your other dome effects. And that's a really powerful feature to be able to augment live performances like that. Now, running laser shows in the evenings after planetarium programming ends maximizes your use of the theater. So depending on your institution and what your schedules are like, adding laser shows is a really good way to keep your building making profits, basically. And then you're also, with laser shows, able to really showcase your theater's capabilities using your big sound system, your immersive video, your cove lighting, and of course the lasers. It's a really good way to illustrate everything that your dome has to offer, and it kind of can introduce audiences to the different things that you can do in there. Lasers can also breathe a little fresh energy into a theater that's looking for something new. So maybe a building's not quite ready for a full remodel, but adding something like a laser system and doing some promotion behind it is a good way to bring audiences back in and kind of reintroduce them. And there's also kind of the safety net of if your main video projection system goes down for any reason, laser shows can keep your theater operational. So that's a good way to kind of avoid some downtime losses. Now, the revenue opportunities, some of it is pretty straightforward. You sell your tickets to laser shows just as you do for regular planetarium programming. but you're bringing in different audiences. And depending on what shows you're running, you can kind of pick what type of people that you want to be bringing in. So you can, bring in more educational stuff, family shows, or obviously the rock evening shows. Some science centers will do a small upcharge to add a laser matinee to admissions. Lasers are also an ideal option for corporate events and group functions and parties and club gatherings. So you can kind of reach out to different groups in your area and let them know that they can, use your facility for their gatherings. And then lots of theaters will sell laser messaging for like proposals or birthday parties or anniversaries, as well as adding a logo sequence to a corporate event. That's a great add-on for like your rentals or different occasions that you have in your dome. And some places even introduce concessions and merchandise to boost the per guest revenue. So they'll have a little stand right outside of the dome and, sell some candy and t-shirts and posters and stickers and things. And so there's a lot of different ways you can kind of boost the revenue basically that way. Now, a lot of places have run laser shows in the past. You'll know this because customers constantly asking, when are you bringing laser shows back? That I hear that quite a bit, and it's kind of cool. So some theaters can dip their toes in the water by renting a system to see how their audience responds before committing to a purchase. We have some small theaters that will just rent on a regular basis, but primarily rentals seem to be people that are trying things out before they commit to a purchase, and that's a valid strategy. Different theaters, depending on their scale and their locations, will start out in different ways. So some theaters will start out with a modest system and build an audience and use the revenue from that to upgrade the equipment for more elaborate shows. We've got theaters, a good example would be in Kansas City, Missouri, Union Station, 4 or 5 years ago, started with a single projector. And over a few years, this summer, they'll be up to 7 projectors. So as their audience is growing, their system's growing, and the shows are getting more and more elaborate. Other venues will just start off with a large system, do a big marketing push and make a big splash. And so a lot of it kind of depends on how your fundraising is and what your goals are, how your funds are raised and what your goals are. When you're fundraising, offering to attach a donor's name or logo to laser shows is a pretty cool option. Now, having good laser equipment is important, but people come to the laser shows to experience their favorite artists in a unique way. So having a large catalog of laser shows provides you options for different tastes and different seasons. So being able to rotate your content regularly is a good way to encourage repeat visits. So don't discount having access to a large catalog. Now, laser shows can be graphics only. That's usually in smaller venues. So a single laser projector can play shows, but adding a hazer and laser beam projectors in the front of the theater is a really effective way at kind of putting the wow in the show. And that's a good way to turn customers into repeat customers. And you just can't simulate the actual 3D beams physically over people's heads. That's just a really cool thing. So laser shows, they're sustainable revenue stream that complements rather than competes with your core mission. And so if you're looking for an exciting new attraction for your venue, I encourage you to explore laser light shows more. And so thanks again and for showing up. And if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. And if you have any questions, pop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen there. Next up, I'd like to introduce Yanni. She's a multimedia artist, photojournalist, curator, and producer specialized in immersive media storytelling. She's creative director at 4Pi Productions and also co-founder of CULTVR in Wales, which hosted our Best of Earth Awards this year. So I've been following Yanni's work for some years, doing some amazing cultural art presentations. I'll let her share more. Yanni, why don't you come on the screen and tell us a bit about yourself and what you do and what you're doing that maybe could generate revenue for planetariums as well.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Ed, for inviting me to this session. I hope you can share the screen that I'm sharing. So as Ed was saying, I'm the creative director of the Immersive studio 4Pi Productions. We are based in Wales in the UK, and we've been running for over 15 years, mainly making immersive productions that are always immersive, but with a strong passion in Fulldome. So we started by delving and learning how to create live capture immersive films through a platform that we call the Dance Dome, where we work with different choreographers and made short films, mainly utilizing live capture that back in the day, it was pretty challenging, even still today. So we have always created a different kind of product, which sometimes has been hard to find a place within a planetarium environment to be displayed and screened. Our films are always artistic. We work with dancers, choreographers, or tell the story of musicians and other creatives. So sometimes it's hard to find a place within the regular screenings of a planetarium. So from early on, we kind of had to develop a creative way to be able to produce this content, but also to display this content to audiences. And that's how we got into portable immersive domes, because this way we could create, but also deliver and learn from audiences immediate feedback about how accessing full dome artistic experiences, what it was for them, if they like them, what they like it more or less, and it was a way to evolve the language of the medium and learn a lot by delivering these activations in different cities across the world with different audiences. So once we have mastered how to create full dome immersive films, we started being more interested into the live performance aspect. So the only place in the world, aside from Vortex, which we visited and was great inspiration for us, it was SAT in Montreal, where artists could go and utilize their facilities to develop live immersive artworks. So we were fortunate and we turned one of our films into an immersive performance. But when we came back to the UK, we just could not show that work with anybody. There was not a single facility that we could present an immersive artwork. So that's a little bit the reason behind why we had to create our own immersive dome lab that is CULTVR. Mainly it grew out of the necessity of needing to have a space to create the infrastructure for artists to have a playground where they could create, research, and develop immersive live performances. So we opened in 2019, so we've been operating for 6 years now. And our space main focus is to promote shared reality and XR live performances. So we have a theater dome that is 12 meters in diameter, is suspended from the ceiling. We have a co-working space, a space for running workshops, and our academy strand, outdoor areas, and our production studio that it sits at the front of the building. So now we can in-house produce and continue to make immersive live performances and also films, but we can also empower artists from the UK and even international artists to come to CULTVR to develop work and to present that work to audiences and learn from that process. So when we opened CULTVR, for us it was crucial to have three core pillars. One, to have an educational aspect that we call the CULTVR Academy, where we do a lot of teaching with the three universities, the local colleges, lots of community groups in and around Cardiff. We have the lab, that is the physical space that I was describing a little bit earlier, and also the portal that is more like a digital archive that captures cultural activity that happens in Wales, but all in 360. We were the first space in the UK that it had a focus and a dome as the environment for pushing immersive arts. And we opened this facility totally independent of any public funds, which is a great achievement. And we support any kind of artistic or technological discipline because domes are good for everything and they can be applied to lots of technologies and projects, and it's a way to kind of push the language of the medium and learn more about interactivity in immersive spaces and the connection between how an audience can interact and learn from being in these spaces, which we love. So since we opened, I will say that maybe 10% of the projects that we have presented have been the result of R&D commissions that sometimes might be the result of public grants or private endeavors or university R&D projects. Fulldome screenings, more like imagine the cinema kind of approach, probably takes 30% of our programming. It might be 2 to 3, some weeks, 4 days a week where we present cinematic films in the dome. 30% is live performance. For us, it's a strong focus and it's core of our mission to present live performance immersively. 5% might be for conferences or festivals. As Ed was mentioned, this year we hosted Best of Earth and we have hosted Fulldome UK for the last 2 editions. 15% for corporate events. Obviously, we are independent, so we need to combine the public mission of the lab with generating revenue, and 10% roughly up for delivering workshops and working with the students. So since we opened, we probably supported 100+ visual artists to create research and learn about the Fulldome medium. 150 dance and theatre practitioners have come to the space and perform live to audiences using different technologies like motion capture, but other times just utilizing the dome as a canvas for telling the story of their projects. 700 musicians at least have passed through our doors, and over 2,000 students we have had one-to-one interactions here in the space. Our audiences have been growing steadily, around 25% for the last 6 years, having in mind that we have the whole pandemic as well. So that's why our figures probably are affected for that as well, to keep that in mind. But yes, we've seen a steady growth and a demand for artistic content in this kind of format. Regarding our marketing, we are independent, quite small, collective, so we have to use digital tools. So most of our marketing is across social media platforms, the newsletter and all of that. 20% is more physical print media across our city and sometimes nearby locations. And 5% might be more regular advertisement in local magazines or things like that. So just to give an overview that we really push and communicate using social media and digital tools. And our audiences, our split is quite varied, but half of our audience is between 26 to 64 years old. We have a steady number of 65 plus people that come and visit us for cinema experience and also for live performance. And because we do a lot of activities and workshops and training and shadowing opportunities with younger people, around 25% are between 10 to 25, and children are not our direct focus, but we still do programs that are mainly to attract younger people into this environment. So we also have them in the space. And as I was saying, live performance has been the main focus for us as artists and for us as programmers of CULTVR Lab for 6 years. And we can definitely see that there is an appetite for audiences to experience immersive performances. So I truly encourage Planetarium gatekeepers to allow artists to go into these spaces. Artists, they don't need a lot. Mostly you all have digital systems. It's quite easy to tap into it. Artists know how to do that, connect and disconnect and all of that. And they bring clearly a completely different audience and a different kind of activity that still allows you to run your daily programs, and in the evenings it gives another purpose to your facilities. So for us, it's been very successful. Every musical performance obviously is a different kind of music, which by default attracts a different kind of people. And we have tried a little bit, you name it, we probably have done it in CULTVR, from fashion shows to very data-driven real-life sculptures, to folk bands, to jazz bands, to rock bands, to DJs, to parties until 3 a.m. We have tried and tested all of these different performances, and we have learned by delivering all of them. So yeah, it was just an invitation to, sometimes people is sitting down, so you even don't have to remove the chairs. So it's a lot of programming out there that it can encourage new people to visit your facilities. And anyway, any questions, I'll be around a little bit later on. And yeah, here are my contact details in case you want to contact me directly as well. Thank you so much.
Oh, Yanni, thank you so much. So much to learn from here. Of course, many planetariums are focused on astronomy, education, or whatnot, and are somewhat constrained. But then other planetariums are able to host live events and experiment with alternative programming. And this sort of pioneering work can really show the way. So next up, not last but not least, we have Tammy Barrett. Tammy is Executive Director of the Giant Screen Cinema Association. And she's been doing that for, 20 years. And, Tammy has her finger on the pulse of the dome cinema. These are the IMAX, the giant screen domes and whatnot. Tammy, why don't you come on and, share some of your wisdom of what's happening in the dome space, especially as it pertains to the overlap between what we call full dome and giant screen.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me. I feel a little underqualified to be amongst this group, but thank you so much for having me. Rather than look at me the whole time, I thought I would just share some images of past GSCA events and things that we're involved in to kind of give everyone a flavor of how we're involved in this space. So I'm Tammy Barrett, the Executive Director of the Giant Screen Cinema Association. And as Ed said, I've been here 21 years. Before I share any ideas about revenue streams, I wanted to start by saying something important. I understand that for many in the planetarium community, giant screen films, especially ones that aren't astronomy, are not your cup of tea. Some of you might see them as canned, as outside the mission. I get that. I'm not here to try to sell you on something that you don't want. I respect the priorities that you have for your audiences. My goal today is just to share a few ideas and examples that might be useful without asking you to abandon what works for you and your organization. GSCA is a nonprofit trade association supporting giant screen theaters, filmmakers, and distributors. We've been around for decades, actually since 1978, and I'm proud of the quality of work that's come from our members, from award-winning educational documentaries to cutting-edge immersive tech showcases. We also put money and energy behind innovation. For example, our upcoming Innovation Spotlight Day in Fort Worth is dedicated entirely to new revenue models for theaters. This is part of our DNA. One place I think that we can help is in content. Planetariums create new custom content to expand beyond astronomy programming, and that can be expensive, risky, and time-consuming. There's a huge library of high-quality, educational, proven audience appeal films that are already out there. Giant screen films that can be licensed for dome playback. Giant Screen Cinema Association has a free film database that is open and available to everyone for free. I just put a link to that in the chat, so you're welcome to take a look at that at your leisure. The sticking point is usually the business model. In the giant screen world, a gate share is common. But that doesn't work for many planetariums where tickets aren't tracked separately from museum admission. And that's where alternative licensing comes in. You can have a per screening license where you pay a fixed fee per show, predictable expenses for you, and guaranteed income for the distributor. There's also event-based licenses where rights are for short-term run, maybe tied to a festival or a seasonal theme. Or maybe a hybrid arrangement. If you have both a dome and a flat screen, some of our members do, you can license one film for both, and that maximizes reach without doubling your costs. And please excuse me if you already know some of this. There are new people and there are seasoned folks, so I tried to bring it to everyone. I wanted to give you a few solid examples. So to highlight planetarium performance highlights, for example, Planetarium Copenhagen has been showing Touch the Stars since 2019. It's a gate share license. It's not multi-year. It's not a multi-year flat fee license. Copenhagen is a former Omnimax theater. They continue to renew the film and show it frequently. Another example, the Arctic, Our Last Great Wilderness, has been exhibited by several planetariums very successfully. The film sponsor has hosted several special events at the planetarium, bringing in press and new visitors. Superpowered Dogs was played in Nashville, Tennessee, home of the show's sponsor, Mars. The film was able to fulfill the needs of the sponsor as well as for the planetarium to draw new audiences. Mysteries of the Unseen World has been very popular with planetariums over the last few years, bringing new content to their screens. Renewals have been very common amongst licensing planetariums. Also, I wanted to share a link to an article from In Park Magazine. It's from a few years ago, but it's still relevant. It's for Space Next. It talks about the film working in both the giant screen and planetariums. Space Next had about half the licenses in full dome theaters and half in giant screen theaters, reaching over $35 million in box office. Marketing matters. We have seen direct correlation between marketing spend and box office success. No surprise here, but it's worth repeating. If you're going to add new content, you need to tell people about it. On the technical side, if you have DCP playback capability, you can run most anything. I know in the past that's been a barrier to entry to showing some giant screen films in your theaters. However, now even IMAX branded theaters can show non-IMAX content with the disclaimer, this is not an IMAX presentation. But it's worth talking about it and thinking about it for new options and new programming, and that barrier to entry is lower than you think. Wanted to talk a little bit about GSCA's forward-thinking perspective. We don't see our role as just about current programming. We're actively investing in the future, exploring new technologies, fostering collaboration between dome giant screen, and immersive arts, and working to match the right content with the right venues. Part of that is part of that commitment includes our formal MOUs with DomeFest West and IPS. And as well as Full Dome Database. These partnerships are central to our goal in widening the tent, strengthening the relationships between the giant screen and planetarium communities, sharing resources, and opening new pathways for programming and audience growth. You know, a strong tide rises all ships, and really we are truly stronger together than we are apart. We've already seen the benefits in action. In 2024, we partnered with IPS for a joint event at ASTC in Chicago, and we participated in the IPS conference and were involved with DomeFest West multiple times. Looking ahead, both DomeFest West and Immersive will take part in GSCA's upcoming Innovation Spotlight. I'll share a link in this chat to share that with you. This is in Fort Worth on Saturday, September 20th. It's a full day focused on new revenue models and fresh content for theaters of all kinds, including full dome, planetariums, and film screens. And it includes highlighting the COSM LED dome at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and Natural History. It's the same mindset I think we need for revenue: flexible, creative, tailored to the operational realities of your theater, and not one size fits all. And if you can join us in Fort Worth, we'd love to see you there. So this isn't about replacing your core planetarium programming. It's about adding tools to your revenue toolkit. You've already got a valuable immersive space that audiences and potential sponsors covet. The question is, how do you leverage them in ways that fit your mission and your capacity? Thank you so much again for having me. I appreciate it, and I would love to help you in any way, answer any questions you have. Thank you, Ed.
Rock and roll. Thanks, Tammy. Wow. So some great stuff there. Lots of ideas. Let's bring on all the panelists, and we'll do some Q&A here. And if you have any questions, want clarification of anything, feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A box. Jay has already been addressing some of the questions that have been asked. You can see that in there as well, I believe. So Jenny asks, Tammy, you mentioned gate share and distribution. Does the filmmaker participate in that?
I think it depends on each agreement. Some distributors have that producer partake in that, and some don't. But I say it's really time to talk openly with these filmmakers and distributors. They're eager to get their content on new screens, and there's a lot of options and opportunities now. So I think it really does depend from filmmaker to filmmaker.
Right on. So Winter Lazarus asks, how was the, I assume, CULTVR in Wales funded? Yanni, how do you, sustain yourselves and particularly, from initial build, right? Was that private investment, but also, in terms of ongoing operations, how are the ticketed events doing?
Sure. So the CULTVR was funded by the studio 4Pi Productions, so it's been run through private investment, and we are a small team, but we have been working in portable domes for many years, so we already have some of the equipment. And then since we opened, we obviously apply for public funding, which support project to project. So we have not got major capital investment from any public organizations, but we can, thanks to the public funding, support artists and conduct our yearly program of artistic residencies, for example. So it's a little bit what I explained before, a combination between different kinds of events, the ticketing versus the corporate events that also support what we do, but mainly the studio 4Pi Productions supports CULTVR.
That's great. A lot of planetariums in the U.S. Rely on public funding and don't necessarily have a revenue or profit motive. But, a lot of things are shifting. Government funding is getting harder to come by. And, I think it's very inspiring to see that you're able to sustain an operation, without the public funds. And this is, the big challenge, obviously, when you're coming into this space more as an entrepreneur, trying to create a public-facing, community beneficial operation that maybe has education, but other things as well. It's sink or swim. You need the ticket revenue to be able to operate. And I think that and the reason for this panel is to see all the different things that people are doing along those lines. So we have a question from Joe on to Tammy. When giant screen films are shown in a planetarium, is the full planetarium dome used, or is the projection like the front half of the dome screen? And as you know, a lot of giant screen films are sort of cut off in the back a little bit.
I think that's generally the case. I know that some are making some, they're trying to make it fit larger, but for the most part, giant screen films are not 180 degrees. So they generally do not fill the full dome, just the front half, Joe.
Got it.
Which is also, I'll just chime in, which is also why the IMAX domes are designed as they are designed, correct? So that they can accommodate both formats.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, one of the reasons for that, of course, IMAX started out as 15 perf 70 millimeter film going through the projector sideways, right? Rolling loop projector, patented. Of course, the patents have since run out. And, film has really reduced in its popularity, except with a couple of Hollywood filmmakers, I believe, who love the film format, actual film. But yeah, you have this frame and you have a fisheye lens and you're trying to fill the width of the frame. So you have this grid, essentially, they call it a sacred master. And it's a grid that covers the bottom of the dome, but then slowly sort of truncates what would be in a dome master frame that we use in the full dome theaters. It would slice some of that off in the back of the dome. So that way film cameras and with fisheye lenses and all are specially designed, for that format. And of course, now you have 18K, 17K, 12K cameras and very high quality fisheye lenses where you can actually get a full circle, the full fisheye frame. Of course, if you have a full dome film that you release in a giant screen cinema, which for IMAX, you have to have a DCP made specially to release that film. But in that case, your full dome film will be most likely cut off a little bit in the back like that. But you still get quite a lot of the immersive effect. So let's see, other questions here. Kelly's asking, Yanni, how do you go about licensing performances and productions through CULTVR? What means are there for independent dome films and live performances to generate income? Or do you mostly produce in-house? She also wants to know, do you have sister venues or other venues that you work with to share programming? And she is thanking you for your trailblazing endeavor.
Thank you, means a lot. We have a strong partnership with Society for Arts and Technology. So for the last 3 years, we actually got a little bit of funding and we've been able to share the work produced by artists and have Quebec artists visiting us here in Wales and Welsh artists presenting projects in Quebec. So that's been a very good collaborative project. Aside from that, because there are not many venues around the world that can present live performances to the degree of regularity that we do, it's very challenging to share content. The Sphere and Cosm have different formats to the one that we have in CULTVR, so that also bring other limitations to be able to transfer the work. But our position is more to empower artists for learning about the medium, so then hopefully they can aspire to create and produce content for larger venues as Cosm and the Sphere, basically. But it's not a form, it's not a formula. Every project is different. There are not many live immersive performances because the main aspect holding this sector developing is the lack of infrastructure. So that's why we had to create our space here. So the artists cannot get into an immersive dome space to create a live performance and test it and refine it and get feedback from audiences and do it again, then they cannot evolve and they cannot also tour. So it's very hard to create an economy that is circular and that it can support this. So most of the things that we do are bespoke. Sometimes we work with the visual artists that might come with the musicians, dance theater performers, and we teach them and give them a crash course into how to create content for the dome. Other times we as the studio take on the hat of content producers. Other times we just VJ, so then the costs are a little bit lower, you could say. And other times we spend 1 or 2 years making a live immersive production. So it's not a formula. Sometimes the musicians might get funding to come and present work here. Other times we get funding so we can support them. So the key really is to have different kind of revenue streams and be open-minded and receptive, that when you are talking about an artistic project, not two are the same. So you need to have a space that is flexible and it can accommodate the requests that the artistic vision might need. And we just support it as much as we can. So hopefully that answers the question.
That's great. Well, that's a lot of answers there. So have you had artists then? You said you work with the SAT. Have you had artists that then tour will go to SAT?
Yeah. We have even artists here, like probably some of you might know Marian Monocolor. He created work here in CULTVR as part of our resident program. Then he toured to SAT and to other domes in Germany. And now 3 years later, he's coming back to CULTVR to present that work. So we as artists have been in different domes as well, presenting our live performances. So we do it to the extent that is possible. Now we are very excited about this new dome in Berlin. We're already talking to them to see how we can collaborate. So there are limited spaces, so until there are no more. We also aspire to have more CULTVR in different locations because we can see that Cosm and the Sphere are larger spaces that require different kind of investment, and we are more of a grassroots focused immersive environment that needs to support the artists at the kind of artist level, so it's more accessible for everybody. So if anybody's interested in exploring that, send us an email.
That's great. I'm curious also, one of the things Kate had mentioned, the Vortex Dome, there was some infrastructure that we needed to put in place. And of course, it was very flexible space. So we could put stage risers in there, stage lighting, this sort of thing. And of course, live sound requires sometimes, a whole different setup. So are you finding difficulty having your artists in planetariums that maybe don't have all that infrastructure? Is that an expense that creates a barrier to doing that?
I think sometimes it might be more of understanding that it's going to be difficult, or that artists are going to get into the planetarium and break the system, or mess with the setup, or things like that. That actually it is, I think, is artists and people that work in the creative industries and the events industries, we are very proficient in understanding how different technologies work. To be honest, it's not rocket science how any digital system works in a planetarium. There are not that many to learn either, right? So I think sometimes you can do a lot even if you have a star ball in the middle or a small, very small space at the front of the planetarium. believe me, artists are creative minds and they will utilize the space in lots of different and ingenuitive ways. So you might not be able to present a ballet performance that takes a 10 meter by a 10 meter stage. We struggle to do that here, but we have done it. But it might be other kind of artistic live performances that you can accommodate, and that they might bring audiences that you will never attract otherwise. So I think maybe it's lack of resources that I can understand. There might not be staffing that can be accommodated for the evening hours, or that little backline that might be needed. Because we specialize in live performance, we have for us, it's very easy to switch, and a little bit like Vortex was, right? Like we are geared to accommodate different projects. So we can have 100 chairs or have 350 people in the space without any chairs. So the stage tomorrow we have it in the middle with the artist performing in the middle. Yesterday we were showing Beautifica. So we are a very flexible space that can accommodate different projects. And that's why diversifying is key, I understand, for success, really.
Got it. Got it. I have a question for Jay. I'm just curious, of course, when we used to run the laser light shows, often the star projector was part of the show, and you had this amazing effect of these beautiful abstract art forms from the lasers floating, almost looking dimensionally in the star field. Mm-hmm. Now that most planetariums have gone to Fulldome video, do you see the Fulldome video being incorporated into laser shows much? Is that something you support? I'm just curious, are there hybrid shows that combine the video with the lasers?
Definitely. So there still are a lot of places that have star balls and run laser shows, and that's really cool. But you're right, with the video projections, so we don't distribute any video to run with our shows, but we encourage our venues to use their own tools to supplement our shows. And so sometimes that might be just shuttering the lasers for a song while they play around with other things in the theater. Most of the time it's picking things that will fit behind the lasers, and so it might be just rotating the stars or putting a nebula up or that type of thing. And we do really encourage using all of the tools in your theater and kind of letting the audience in on that this is a live show. If you see something you like, cheer, so that it doesn't feel like every show is exactly the same. Now, our customers really are on a spectrum of some, might just play a matinee and just turn it on and let it run. And others are very live, where they manipulate the laser effects and build their own cues. Most theaters are somewhere there in the middle where they're working with our content and their own content. But it's engaging for the employees. So they're having a better time. The audience is having a better time. And overall, that's how you kind of turn something from, oh, that was cool, to when are we coming back to see this again?
Great. So you're giving the theaters an artistic license to play, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. Kelly also is asking you, Jay, is there a band or artist you'd especially love to do a live laser dome show for, like a career?
I grew up as kind of a metalhead, and so luckily for me, the Laser Fantasy Library covers my favorite bands. So we've got a Kiss show, we've got Metallica shows, AC/DC, all of that stuff. We have a versus show, Guns N' Roses versus AC/DC, and I kind of think the Guns N' Roses should get a full show personally. But we talk to our customers and kind of look at what's going on in the entertainment space and try and be reactive and doing more modern artists, you know, like our Taylor Swift show is massive, obviously. So a more modern band that I think would be fun would be Muse. So we did an album release party for them, and that was really good laser music. But we just remain really flexible as to like our pipeline for new shows. We don't try to get like, basically we've got a list of things that we're thinking about, and we kind of like, once we finish a show, we're like, okay, what feels best next? So a lot of people are like, what's your next show? And they're like, not really sure. We'll kind of see what's percolating out in the you know, in the public consciousness and what people are asking for.
Yeah. Because I remember in the early days of laser shows, you had, you know, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, and these are bands that everyone loved at the time. But then it sort of bifurcated, and you had the metal and punk and all the different sort of genres. And so each one started to become more and more niche in nature.
Yeah, when I first came in, it was very heavy metal. Before me was a little more psychedelic. And now it really, you know, the stuff that's hitting big is the pop stuff, but even classics, like we just released an ABBA show, and that's been a big hit. And you know, Queen has been a big hit. So one of the music industry is weird now. Like it used to be, kind of had the gatekeepers where everybody knew the same music and the zeitgeist. Like even if you weren't a big fan of Michael Jackson, everybody knew Michael Jackson. Nowadays, there can be big artists that a lot of the people in the public might not even know because everybody's listening to their little chunk. But at the same time, people are way more open to listening to different kinds of music. Whereas like when I was growing up, if you were into one type of music, then the other type of music was bad and you'd make fun of those people and stuff. And now it seems people are way more open. So what that means for us is, and our customers, is you can run pop shows, you could run rock shows. There's audiences for each of these. And I'm glad that the younger people still like classic rock shows. They haven't gone away. And so that's kind of part of what we do is keeping that in the public consciousness.
Got it. Question from Coco for Kate. Coco asked, in your 15 years in the planetarium and immersive space, what patterns do you see and how domes succeed or struggle, especially when moving beyond traditional science or astronomy content? And I'll add to that, you know, essentially you're you're the producer of these worlds shows, and you're distributing them. They're like evening cultural entertainment for all ages. But curious, what's the impact that's having on the planetariums who are running these shows?
Thank you. That's a really great question. And, you know, just picking up from the experience at the Vortex and what Yanni was saying as well, there's so much desire to be in this space. And, you know, when you look at the big picture, the planetariums are designed as an educational nonprofit sector. And their missions, to Tammy's beautiful presentation, you know, is specific to each institution. Some of them are more conservative, some are more open. Some of them have facilities that are capable to handle live performance. Some of them are, you know, struggling with just staying open. You know, there's a whole range. And I have so much respect and regard for the planetarium sector and appreciate their mission, you know, of making science entertaining and interesting for, you know, so many young people. Their primary participants are school-age children that go to their field trips, you know, during the day. So, you know, they work all day. They have busy schedules. Sometimes they have adequate staff. Sometimes they're working, you know, with limited staff. But, you know, we really in our effort to get James's shows out, we work very hard to make them family friendly and all ages compatible, honoring and being able to kind of gently step into this format with a lot of respect and regard. And, we really try to, it's a bespoke experience where each venue is unique. There's not, spec like the entertainment industry with all the movie theaters having their common specs, tech specs. So, we have been supportive of individual planetarium needs, helping sometimes replace bulbs or upgrading the tech. I mean, we really work hard to be supportive of the format and respectful of the sensitivity of their missions. And, it is super exciting as artists and having, there are some people here on this call, like Jonna Perricone and Jenny and Lazarus. We all worked together on shows early on in the Vortex Dome. And we were all so excited about this format because it's so intoxicating. And yet, we're all early pioneers. Everyone that's on this call is interested in this very early pioneering format as it moves into a greater expanded, commercial sectors. So, and people are excited about wanting to create for it. So I just see that, first and foremost, recognizing that planetariums are community-based educational portals, and to respect that and know that that's their primary mission. And some of the positivity that resulted from us being in these theaters has been a brand new audience discovers a planetarium, because we market, we have digital social marketing, but we bring in new audience members, and people then discover these remarkable portals that may have not even realized that they were available in their communities. So I think that there's a tremendous opportunity for cross-purposing into community organizations and especially the educational institutions, when you can have colleges. Some of the planetariums are on college campuses, which is amazing. Like, for example, in Boulder, the Fisk, where we've held Dome Fest West for the last 2 years, and we'll be there again this year coming. John and his team do remarkable work supporting students and projects as much as they can, and to Yanni's point and everyone here, we all need income. We need resources to both run the venues, pay the employees, and create the content and distribute it. And same with Jay, with the lasers and the technology that he creates and the shows they create. So we're always looking at cash flow, right? And you have these two sectors, the nonprofit sector, which is similar to ballet, opera, orchestras, theater, that's a nonprofit sector. And then you have the for-profit world of commercial theaters and Broadway and the cinema world. And, so that the two ways money forks out, there's crossover, and we're going to talk about that more next month when we deep dive into financial resources on the spectrum that's available out there. But, I think, the great thing about the pop-up domes, which are unique, is that they're a wonderful interim way to experience the format that doesn't cost millions and millions of dollars. So I hope that answered your question.
Well, yes. And I'm still curious, though, because I remember some survey that was done, was it in Phoenix, where it was like 98.5% of the people coming to the theater had never been there before.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. We attract new audiences into the planetarium, so we're basically helping their marketing efforts.
Right, but how else does it help them monetarily? I mean, are they doing well because of these shows? Is it really making an
added income?
Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, let's see what else. What other questions do we have here? Kelly Francis is asking, Tammy, I'm seeing more and more independent filmmakers approaching Fulldome with the intentions of producing their shows for both giant screen and Fulldome formats. Are you seeing a rise in interest to develop for multi-formats? What are your thoughts on that? And I guess this pertains to the crossover between the full dome and the giant screen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The more opportunity to showcase their content, the better, right? I mean, and it's interesting because for giant screen producers, they went from producing one, a 1570 film print to now there are, I think Michael Dout and I counted recently 47 or 49 different types of post-production that they have to do when, preparing it for full dome, flat 2D, flat 3D, flat laser, all these different types of presentation. But yeah, their goal is to showcase it in as many ways as possible. And in fact, part of what the GSCA does is we help our filmmakers learn, first of all, always shoot for dome first. That's like our mantra to every filmmaker that comes in our door. Make sure you're showing, and we talk about this sacred master all the time. Make sure you're making your content for dome first, because it's easy to go from dome to flat. Cannot do it the other way. It does not work. And we show a lot of methods and technologies. Oh, sorry, Kate, go ahead.
What did you just say about going from dome to flat? We'll come back to that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, you can, sorry. But yes, a lot of filmmakers are trying to make their content available in as many formats and making 40-minute versions, 20-minute versions, languaging and making it accessible and, languaging. Absolutely, they're trying to make both full dome and flat. And how we're showcasing, we're talking about technologies to make your content so that it can fill the dome, right? So it can go full dome. That's part of what we're talking about in Fort Worth, in fact.
I know, back when it was E&S who was very much a pioneer in taking full dome films and reformatting them for the dome. And these are basically flat screen films that are being reformatted for the dome. Is that still the trend, or are filmmakers in the giant screen cinemas, are they either shooting fisheye or as an adjunct to a flat screen shoot, or even with these higher resolution cameras, there you have this potential of shooting full dome and then baking that out to a flat screen from the dome master. Are you seeing anything like that happening in the biz?
I think that the answer to that is shooting so that it will work on the dome, not so much for the dome. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I know, like, one technique is to keep the action in the lower third, right, so that when you warp it for the dome. Yeah, I think one of the things that is the geometry, right? When you shoot a true fisheye frame and you're, like, say, moving through a forest and you have objects coming at you like that, you have an optical parallax, which is a very strong 3D depth cue. So even without 3D glasses, you start to feel like you're in a 3D environment. And when you shoot flat screen in that way, of course, if it's a panoramic scene in the distance, it almost doesn't matter. You can just wrap it. But if it's like a close, tight shot, you can really see the distortion when you take a flat screen film and try to, you don't get that same 3D effect. So that's why I asked that question. Kate.
And sorry, Tammy, in my excitement to give you kudos. So because I attend Tammy's incredible conference. It's so fabulous. And I think it was a year ago, I can't remember, we showed Mesmerica, our show, as one of the films that was being highlighted. And I sat next to someone during one of the panels, and he leaned over to me and said, "Your show would look amazing in 3D." And I was like, "Yeah, let's look at that." So we met and had discussions about it, and we converted our dome show to a flat screen IMAX 3D show. So we did go from dome to flat screen, but we are using CG, computer-generated visual effects and animation, which is a little bit different, obviously, than shooting live cinema, which most of the giant screen films are created in. So that is, and that's been amazing. And the show looks incredible on the flat screen. We call it Mesmerica XR. And to Kelly's point, and thank you, Kelly, for your great comments in the comment boxes. Transmedia, which is looking at an initial IP, intellectual property, or initial creative project that you create, can be repurposed into many different formats if you pre-plan it strategically, to Tammy's point. And, conversations like the ones we're having today and learning more about the tech and what it takes to output your core IP and get it into these formats, not necessarily cookie cutter, where you're taking something and then just repurposing it, but really looking at the elements of your story or your IP or your story world, and then repurposing perhaps aspects of it that are unique to the format, like including the headsets, live streaming, cell phones. I mean, it's just continues on now. And a simple way to start is a book, or a comic book, as so many of our movies come off that type of IP. But anyway, I just wanted to give you some love, Tammy, for your conference, because you inspired us to create a 3D film of Mesmerica, which is showing in a variety of theaters around the world now, and we're super pleased with it and love it. So who knew? Thank you.
Very cool.
And I really think that's the name of the game, right? Is to make the content available for as many as possible. And of course, that it comes along with cost, because, making one 1570 film, yes, it was expensive, but now making 47 different types, it does cost a lot more. There's a lot more cost in post. But again, making sure you're capturing it right is so important. And that's why some of what we do is camera testing. And I think we've done 4 or 5 camera tests, and we're actually going to showcase the last iteration that we did recently, and that's using Pal Actal's 9x7 camera, and how in different circumstances different cameras work well. Anyway, don't want to get too much in the weeds for that, but it's really important to just know what the technologies are available, how to use them, and when to use them in the right situations. And that's what we talk a lot about.
Oh yeah, and I'll plug GSCA. Their technical committee is awesome, and they do these camera shootouts and A/B comparisons, quite often. And the upcoming conference with the LED dome, I think, is going to be really awesome, and further fosters that crossover between the full dome and film.
Yeah.
And just wanted to add too, we had to pre-screen our show in preparation to show it in Fort Worth so that it looked great on the LED screen, because that's a whole other format now.
It is. It's different. And that's why we're doing it, right? Because you have to know what's coming. And there are going to be more and more of these LED theaters. So,
Exactly.
Kate, did you go to Fort Worth, or did you go to Salt Lake?
No, our director and one of my colleagues, Michael Dowd, went to the headquarters in Salt Lake City to pre-screen it, because the theater hadn't even been opened yet. We were prepping for it because we were one of the opening shows. And just wanted to make sure that there were no artifacts that didn't show up in the projection screen format. But, LED is a whole other level of perfection that you have to do.
What looked good on an IMAX dome, with one projector, looks very different on an LED screen, right?
Yeah.
And an LED dome. And it's even less forgiving. So it's important to know what's coming down the pike.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. We have a couple questions here that are similar. One from Coco and one from Cora Braun. Coco asks, which performance integrations have been most successful? Music, dome visuals, dance, theater, etc., and what made them successful? And also, Cora is wondering what sort of alternative content is less or more well received by audiences, and what kind of planetarium. So anybody who has experience with a variety of these alternative formats, including laser. Any opinions on that?
Well, I can briefly say it depends on lots of factors. Sorry, also the marketing budget that you have associated for the specific project, right? For us, I could say all the genres of music have worked well. Obviously, it's different audience that a national or international artist might attract than a local artist, but we somehow make work all the kind of different levels of artistic career progression, and we always try to combine international artists with local artists on the same programming so they can benefit from exposure and things like that. Regarding musical genres, Cardiff is a music city, so there is an appetite for live music performances. Regardless, there is lots of concerts that happen kind of every day of the week. So I will say for us, live music, it has more of a prominence than dance or theater in the Dome. So that's what we try to program more. Plus, we love working with musicians because they leave a big space for the visuals to be creative. So
That's great.
I'll chime in a little bit as far as the different kinds of content. There's a few shows, or just like in movies and things, there's a few that will kind of hit everybody. But we've kind of found different venues, different cities have their audiences will have different flavors, right? So what might be a big hit down in Florida might not play that well in Peoria, right? And so it's good to have a diverse lineup of content and try it out and see how your community is responding to it. And so it's good to kind of target. So if you've got like a Science Center might do a matinee, and that wouldn't necessarily really be marketed as come to see the show. It's more like you're already here, you want to sit down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and the matinee just needs to be entertaining enough that they're like, yeah, I'll go watch that. Versus the evening shows where you're picking a specific genre or artist and you're drawing from that fan base. And so that's where you kind of play around with, the people in our community are really responding to, Lady Gaga or, Bad Bunny or something like that, or they're really coming back for the classic shows. So just having that variety, trying different things and seeing how your community is responding.
I think that the evening shows, you have so much opportunity to bring in new audiences. And, we do some studies about that. And for example, there are some films like a Jerusalem film that's a beautiful film. It comes back every year around Easter, and it brings in all different types of audiences. It brings in older groups. Or other specialty. I remember there was a film about Van Gogh, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and everyone thought a film about making art, but it was absolutely fantastic, and it was so well received. So these specialty films are available, and you can make special events from them. It just requires some additional marketing that some museums and science centers aren't as capable, not capable, that's not the right word, I'm sorry, aren't as well funded to do. And that's when there's an opportunity for something like a Mesmerica that has this different business model to come in and, shake things up. And that's really amazing to see the results from that.
That's great. We have a question from Winter here. By the way, Coco has a few questions in the chat. You guys, if you want, you can type an answer to her direct. Or Coco, you might want to follow up with some of the presenters as well, one-on-one. But Winter asks, the R&D dimension to Dome, is that a possible way to get additional funding? And with CULTVR, was that all part of what interested private investors? And I can speak to the Vortex Dome, is that the R&D was all self-funded and wasn't really of interest to investors who want to see a working business model, that can generate profit. We did profitable events mostly off campus, and that made money, and then we put that money back into the Dome, R&D, and supporting artists, artists in residence, crazy performances that were very experimental in nature. So the R&D extended from tech, where we were using live cameras, 3D cameras, and having dancers on a stage, and then having the visuals respond to them, but also, so tech R&D and creative R&D, where we're trying different kinds of shows, stage plays, and like that. Jenny Ogden on the call did something called Passion. It was a whole stage play with a Broadway choreographer. And, of course, we brought in Universal and Disney, and we're pitching the show to them like that. So, but, having a dome that you can experiment with like that was very valuable, and we got a lot out of it. But Yanni, if you have any comments on the R&D aspect at CULTVR.
I think for us, R&D is in our DNA. Probably if I go downstairs, someone is testing and doing something that has never happened before, and it might just be a chair position or placement, because we are still trying to understand what is the best way to create a live performance or film experience, but also the way to share it with the audience, and what is the position of the audience within the space that we have. And so it's something that is in our DNA. We have been successful with a couple of no huge grants to conduct R&D projects here, but mainly it's all self-financed by 4Pi, our studio, and the private investors that we had in CULTVR is 4Pi Productions. We didn't have like external private investors. The studio was the private investor. So it's something that for us is very key and is core, and we have lots of different principles like sustainability. We have created a space with recycle and upcycle materials because we deeply care about the future of the planet. So we are trying to find a way of maximizing the materials that we employ, but creating also a venue that looks at the future, and if it's replicated somewhere else, it can benefit from all the R&D we have conducted for 6 years as well.
Awesome. Kate.
Yeah, I wanted to add, thank you for your concern about the environment. That's something we all need to be concerned about for sure. When we had the Vortex Dome up, we have a nonprofit affiliated with the Dome that we were able to offer fiscal sponsorship. So we had an artist come in who was a choreographer, Stefan Wenta, and he wanted to do a ballet. And one of our artists, Audrey Phillips, teamed up with him, and we received a grant through our fiscal sponsorship for them. So they were able to produce the ballet. It was a beautiful ballet with full-on, cinema and dance. And so, affiliating with fiscal sponsorship as well for projects is another possible way to go for some of these more experimental R&D projects. So.
Yeah, like a patron. I mean, that's how, I guess ballet companies and symphony orchestras and all, they have patrons.
Donors.
Yeah, very cool. Well,
we heard they are lost in America. So if you have any, please tell them about CULTVR. Yeah.
Will do. We love CULTVR and the SAT and all the pioneers out there who are pushing the envelope. There's a lot of innovative planetariums as well. I hate to start mentioning names, but the FISC, we've been working closely with through Domefest West, and just very impressed. Even their mission statement is to serve the local community with education and art. Is built into their DNA. So, well, I think we should be wrapping it here. I'd like to ask a final question of the panelists. About the future, like where do you see all of this going? Is there some sort of grand convergence? Do you see like a theater of the future emerging also programming, and also mission statement for Planetarium. Do you see that maybe evolving or expanding? Any thoughts on that? And feel free to just jump in.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think about a immersive palooza and doing, bringing us all together and showcasing the best of the best. Again, we're stronger together than we are apart. And I think that going forward, audiences are looking for new and innovative programming. They want to see new things. They want to do things as a group. Yes, people love being at home on their couches. We've got to give them a good reason to get out and come see, our great venues. Every one of us has something unique, and we really have to strive to showcase the best of the best. I don't know if that's too general, or maybe it's just a rah, but I believe it. It's our, we have the opportunity. We've just got to raise the bar and make sure we're meeting that need.
Certainly a step forward.
From my point of view, I see production tools all around are getting better, faster, cheaper. And the systems that things are displayed on, whether it's laser effects or video projectors, are also, every year they're evolving, they're getting cheaper, they're getting more powerful. And so it just feels like there's an evolution going on of making things cooler, faster, cheaper, better.
Right. Have laser projection, you have the XY galvos, right? Is that...
the basics of what a laser projection is fundamentally the same, where it's vector graphics, projecting, light bouncing off a couple of wiggling mirrors. But it's been refined to a point, back when I started, laser projectors were the size of a table, weighed hundreds of pounds, water cooled, 3-phase power. And now, they're the size of a toaster. And so they're much more portable. Rentals are a real thing now, where in the olden days, it was cost prohibitive. And so they're just more refined. The colors are better. The beams are tighter. You can have more projectors in a theater that just makes it more elaborate. Yeah.
Got it.
So I'm not fortune teller, but if I'm talking about the future and I ask the future, I'm asking AI, what is the future for immersive domes? What it's saying is that domes are evolving into ultra high res LED, I guess, AI-driven network spaces for entertainment, education, and cultural experiences. And from my experience, I can talk about the now, and I think it's pretty much the same. Domes is a demand for entertainment, education, and cultural experiences. They are not going to evolve until they can be more open to different creators that work in different disciplines. So for the future to foster cultural experiences, the present needs to facilitate these artists to get into these spaces to be able to create that content.
Great. Kate.
I am just trying to pull something up on the screen for a minute. I think that, obviously you can look at how things are evolving because we have streaming now and so many movies are direct to streaming. This whole emerging kind of fork in the road of the commercial venues is definitely pushing the format. And so, looking at how that format is evolving, as well as, how to maintain relevancy for the planetariums, is the kind of consideration at hand. And, with just like the nonprofit sectors in the arts and culture, the dividing line, there's a lot of blur, and that's fantastic. And I think that, to me, to really help keep this this emerging format robust and support is to continue to share resources like Tammy's mentioned, and work together to create potential networks of possible outlets that we can help each other with for these beautiful artistic projects that get made and never seen. And then very important to me, and I'm just going to, this is not my self-promotion because I was just one of many writers that contributed to this book, but we produced a book about the dome market as well as immersive and tech and VR. And it's used in colleges and classrooms because I think that educating the young people and also midlife career changing or people that are stepping into this format, you know, where can they go to get educated on how to best create for the format? So that was one of the intentions that we had in producing that book, and that's available on IPS's website, but in digital format as well. And we worked to get thought leaders, 18 different thought leaders to contribute to the format. But I think, you know, really working with not only colleges and film departments, because the film departments have got to jump on board, you know, it's a brand new format that's taking off, and also high schools. We had a nonprofit come in with little kids. It was so beautiful at Vortex, and these kids, like 7, 8, 9-year-olds, made their own dome shows. And then they got up on the stage and they talked to, and these were foster children, and they talked about their lives and things they cared about. And it was so powerful and beautiful. And, you know, the more we can educate and support young people coming up and students as well, and work together with institutions and collaborate and create community, the better. So that's my 2 cents.
Rock and roll. And I'll just add my 2 cents as well, is that one of the things we're looking at is how to create venues that can support both walkthrough immersive, like the Immersive Go, a sit-down immersive, perhaps with live performance, all rigged with for stage and lighting and everything you need for live performance, and then also stand-up, where you have a level dome with no dedicated chairs or anything, and where you can have banquets, dance parties, multi-use type theaters. So this is all very exciting. It's going to be interesting to see what the future brings. I want to say thank you to the panelists. You guys are great. Very informative and interesting to see what everyone's been up to, and all these great ideas for how to generate additional revenue. Feel free to reach out to the panelists individually. If you guys want, put your links into the chat. And just to wrap up here, a reminder that next month, the illustrious Kate McCallum is going to be hosting a Fulldome Forum on securing resources for your Fulldome vision. So how to actually make that happen. And one last reminder, Dome Fest West, April 23rd through 26th, 2026 at Boulder, Colorado. Be there or be square, they say. Okay, so gosh, thanks everybody for showing up. We love you. I'll hold on for just a second. If anybody wants to grab anything off of the chat, go ahead and do so. And wishing you all an awesome day and a great weekend. So thanks for showing up. Take care.